So let us look at 8 steps of conflict resolution. Let us first have a glance at what those 8 steps are. So having face to face, be calm yourself. Let the other person vent first. Mirror or repeat what you have heard or restate emotions. Finding agreement or accepting point of view. Show empathy. Gently confront by using a script. And the final one is delay or let someone else deal with it. So these are the 8 steps. Let us deep dive into each one of them individually. So conflict resolution typically, ideally, it should be face to face. This is the best way to resolve conflict. I mean, it will be crazy. I've met people that they have asked me this question that can I resolve conflicts by email? I mean, well, phone is one way. Today we have technology of video conferencing, video calls, online platforms. So, well, there is technology available, but however, still, whenever it is possible, it is best it is best to resolve conflicts face to face. Email texting is absolutely no for me, ineffective. Second step is to be calm yourself. Now you might say, well, it's easier said than done. Well, yes, it's easier said than done. All what I'm asking you is don't act when you're angry. And there is a powerful tool called pause. Whenever you find you're angry, especially when you're handling conflicts, our tendency is to react. And that reaction is going to trigger the whole conflict more and more. It's not going to really resolve. So, whenever you find that you are tending to be reactive, pause. There are various tools where you can use the pause effectively. Uh, Count numbers from 10 to 1. Just when you're angry, just count your or clench your fist like this. Okay? And give yourself that time not to react. And that's the way you can use your trigger to respond and not really react. So don't act when you're angry. It's easier said and done, as well said, but there is another powerful tool which I have not mentioned over here. Start meditating. I have been meditating for eons of years now, 20, 30 years now, and I know the power of meditation, how it can ground you, and you are in super control. You are centered, and you can easily handle many things in life. So do meditate 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the night. Uh, there are various different tools available for meditation. So meditate. Another tool of being calm yourself, that as I said, that when we are angry, the body gives us signals that we are getting angry. Uh, for some of us, uh, our hands become sweaty. For me, my neck becomes very tight when I'm going to get angry. Sometimes your heart might pound. Uh, Various different. You might get some tingling sensation somewhere. So different bodies will kind of give different reactions. So try and identify what are your body signals, because these body signals are much before you actually react and let out your anger. So the best thing is to identify what your body signals are. And if you can't find your own body signals, ask your children. Best, they know exactly when you're going to get angry. When you're going to get angry, this is what happens to you. Your eyes become fluttery, or your temples, the nerves in your temples are going to pop out, and all sorts of things that they might tell you. So, the best way is to ask your children, what are my body signals? When do you know that I am going to get angry? Listen to them. Listen to them in the sense, listen to these body signals. Very important. It will give you a tool. This also requires a lot of practice. And finally, you have to learn to change your self talk. We have done a session on self talk, who motivates the motivator. So it is the self talk. When you are angry, you're also the inner talk that you're will not help you really resolve the conflict. So the moment you change your self talk, you will be much more in peace and much more grounded, much more centered. Uh, to change your self talk. That's another way of becoming calm yourself. The next tool The next is let the other person vent out. This is really, really critical in handling conflicts. Why? Let's see. First of all, learn to be an empathetic listener. You're dealing with a conflict, you're dealing with a person who's highly emotional, highly erratic in his emotions. Maybe he's not really in balance. When a person is in anger, when a person is irate, whenever he's really upset about something, he's not really in his own senses. So it is better that I be an empathetic listener. uh, Go to my the art of listening module where we talk about what is to be an empathetic listener. But it is an absolutely must. If you want to resolve that conflict, then you must learn to be an empathetic listener. Do not interrupt when people are venting out. Allow them to vent. Have you noticed that the moment they start venting out, we typically have the solution for their problem, and we tend to interrupt. If you do interrupt, what happens? That person goes back to stage one, and all the things will start repeating again and again. Every time you interrupt, he'll go back to stage one and he'll repeat everything. And I think so that's something which will start irritating us at the end of. So the best way is not to interrupt. Allow them to completely welt. Taking notes is a beautiful way so that that person will feel heard. Take that permission whenever you're handling conflicts and whenever the person is not in a great state of his emotions. Tell him that I'm going to take notes because whatever you're going to say is important to me. It's a beautiful way of letting the other person vent because you're taking notes and you're listening to that person. Always check off if they have completely vented out. Because if that's not the case, ask people, are we through? Is this all what you want to say? Is there anything else? Ask these questions to the person to check out whether they have completely vented. If they are not, then they will say yes. If they are completely vented, let's say, then they will say yes, this is all what I want to say. However, if they are not, then there'll be something else. And then again, you know, be an empathetic listener. But checking off on whether they have completely vented or not is critical to handling conflict resolutions, to handle a conflict. Another important thing is once you have allowed that person to vent out, you have made your notes, then this step is important by repeating what that person has said and getting the confirmation on it. Is this what you said? Is getting that confirmation from the person who's creating the conflict for you. Now, the importance of this step is that that calms them down. They feel heard because many times people are irate because nobody has given them that listening, right? So when you give him that listening and when you say to him that okay, this is what you said, is that what you said? Am I going in the right direction? Am I listening to you properly? So when you get that confirmation from them, it kind of gives him that feeling that okay, this is somebody whom I can trust. I can, you know, uh, it will calm him down basically. It also generates your credibility. It becomes you are becomes a trustful person where he can say things to you because you're listening to him. Okay, so important step is to restate whatever that person has said, right? Especially restating the emotions that that person has gone through. It is very critical for you to restate the emotion and get confirmation because that's what really calms them down. Uh, so do restate the emotions, do restate and repeat and what uh, do restate the emotions. Okay. The next step is once they have vented out, now you have restated, got the confirmation. Now you are at a stage where either find something which is common for you, which you can agree to, because typically there are two different perceptions in a conflict. One says, I am seeing it 6, the other says, I am looking at it as a 9. So it is typically two perceptions which are fighting against each other, not real. So if you can find out something which is common about something that to agree upon, that will be great. And if you can't really find out that, accept the point of view, accept the other person's point of view. Okay. So once you have found out this agreement, then you go to the next step, show empathy. Empathy is acknowledging the pain that that person has gone through because of that conflict. Feeling the way they feel is what is empathy, and acknowledging it. So if I say something, if you are in a conflict, and if I say that if I was in your place, I would feel exactly the same way. I would be frustrated the same way you are frustrated. Now, I'm not accepting all his story, but I'm just accepting the pain that he has gone through. That is what is empathy, and it is very, very important. Now, important to understand that there is a difference between empathy and sympathy. When I'm sympathetic towards people, I will get carried away by their emotions and I get sucked on to their many times, which I call sob stories. And if I do get sucked into their sob stories, then I'm non control. I'm not in control of handling the conflict. I need to empathize and not sympathize. Don't sympathize anyone. Everyone knows how to deal with their problems. All they want is somebody to vent out. Please allow them to be venting out, to vent out. The steps that we have already covered. So show empathy. Gently confront. There are times when it will become very difficult. That person becomes extremely difficult, and there will be times where you will have to learn this art, which I call of gentle confrontation. And the way to use this art is to create a script. Now I'm going to give you what that script is. So first of all, identify the behavior or the language, anything that is bothering you. When you are handling that conflict, let's say there is a person who's yelling at you or he's giving you bad words. Okay, so what you can say is, Mr. So and so, I really want to help you. However, till you continue to yell at me, I am unable to do anything for you. Will you allow me to do what I can do for you? Mr. So and so, till you keep giving me bad words, I am unable to do whatever I want to do for you. Do I have the permission? Will you allow me to do what I can do for you? Now, when you use this script and when you take that permission, that is very, very critical. You brought out that unhealthy behavior, that unhealthy language that each person is using, you have brought it out in front of him without making him bad. So, and asked permission. I wanted to help you. Can you give me that permission? This is a real powerful tool, and this is an art that you have to really practice. But in conflict handling, this gentle confrontation is a very, very critical tool when the person becomes extremely difficult to handle. The problem with the word confrontation is that many times the confrontation word has a negative concoction. I don't, in gentle confrontation, I'm not aggressive with that person. I can't be aggressive. Confrontation does not mean being aggressive. Confrontation is when I deal with that person, when I do confront, at the end of the confrontation, the person must be felt empowered. That's what is real confrontation. And that's a skill that I need to learn. So this script helps us in not being aggressive. I can be assertive, Mr. So and so. I really want to help you. But till you are yelling at me, I am unable to do whatever I can do for you. May I have your permission? You getting the point? How powerful that script can be to become assertive and our tendency not to become aggressive, because aggression doesn't work. So gently confront whenever required. And the final step is to either, this is anyway your last resort. So if you still find that after doing all the steps, allowing him to vent, uh, you know, being an empathetic listener, either finding a common ground or agreeing to his point of view, after going through all the 7 steps that you have done, you still feel that that person is difficult, then uh, there is something always better, that buy time, okay? Or ask him, can I put somebody else in front of you who will be able to deal with this much effective than I can do? I think so. Sometimes buying that time will heal that person, and it will be easier for the second person to handle the conflict. Sometimes, if you are unable to handle that difficult person, somebody else might be able to. So let us not get stuck up in that I would like to deal. This is your last resort. So it's not going to happen always, but there would be times, because sometimes that person may not be you may not be able to really deal effectively with the conflict. So delay and transfer is your last resort. And finally, if nothing works, what I want you all to do today is I want you to write down, pause this video at this point of time. Write down all your issues that you have about people, about situations in your life. Everything that you want to write down. Write it down. I'm going to give you one statement. Okay? So pause this video, write down all the difficulties that you are facing, all the issues that you have about life, all the people whom you are troublesome, they are bothering you, whatever. All the situations. Once you have written down, then take this statement, write down this statement. People, things, and situations are the way they are, and they aren't the way they aren't. Me wanting them in some way leaves me incomplete. I'm going to say that again. People, things, and situations are the way they are, and they aren't the way they aren't. Me wanting them in some way leaves me incomplete. Now take this statement and apply to each of your situation, each of the issues in your life, and see what happens. There is something magical that happens. I did this exercise when I was going through my journey at that point of time. And I had, after doing a lot of work on myself, I still had about 25, 30 real strong issues in my life. And I noted as the leader told me to write it down. I had this written on my, and when I applied this statement, I realized that it's leaving me incomplete. It's my need that I wanted it in that certain way. I wanted this particular person in this particular way. Each one of them started dropping one by one, one by one, one by one. I started realizing that I could drop those. They didn't remain anymore an issue. But guess what? Two of them were still there on the paper. Really strong. Really, really strong. And when after the exercise, like I'm going to ask you if you did this exercise, once you come back to this video, do you still have issues? I raise my hand. And then the leader turned and wrote the word forgive on the board. Now, why forgive? Forgiveness is the most powerful thing to do in life. Forgive people even if they have been rude. Forgive people if they have hurt you. Why? Not because they deserve the power of forgiveness, because you deserve the benefits of forgiveness. I bet many times you have forgiven people in your lives. Tell me one thing, friends. Whenever you have forgiven people, did your weight come down by 10 kgs? I bet you will agree with me. Because there is a lot of emotional garbage that we carry out. And when we forgive, all that emotional garbage that we carry, we just put them into the garbage can. So forgive people even if they are rude, even if they have hurt you. See, remember, forgiveness is a function of a very large-hearted person. And it's super important because you are worth it. Don't do it. It doesn't justify somebody's behavior. Can you forgive because you are worth it? Try it out, friends. Forgive and be the most powerful man in the world. So, with these 8 steps and the power of forgiveness, I bet you will be able to handle any conflict that you face in your life. Go ahead and use all the tools and be an effective conflict resolution guy. Thank you.